Okay, so maybe introduce yourselves and the name of the quartet and why you're here.
Okay.
And the instrument.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're the Danish string quartet.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Frederik Øland. I'm one of the violinists.
Okay.
And we are here because we are the quartet in residence, and we are just in the middle of doing our prism project. So we've just finished the second concert.
Prism. Okay.
Prism.
And what is? Sorry, we'll go with the introduction.
Yeah, my name is Asbjørn Nørgaard. I am the viola
Viola.
player of said string quartet.
Okay.
Yeah, I am Fredrik Sjølin. I'm the cellist.
And I am Rune Transgaard Sørensen, and I also play the violin.
Okay. And is this how you sit on stage?
Not
No,
really. No,
that's
I
random.
would be there.
Cello there? Okay.
Viola, two
Okay,
violins.
so you do two violins and then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay. Because I know some split the violins.
right.
that's true.
Yeah.
We've always been sitting that way with the
Okay.
two violins and the cello on the outside. That's
Sure.
often how you do in Europe. Yeah,
Right.
it is, yeah.
Okay. And what is the prism? What did
So, well,
I think I have an idea just looking at it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a series of concerts that
Mhm.
focuses on the late string quartets by Beethoven.
okay.
Beethoven wrote a lot of string quartets,
Right.
early, middle ones, and then late ones.
Mhm.
And the late ones, there are 5 of them, and they're quite famous in
Yeah.
the string quartet world.
Right.
Infamous almost.
Ah,
So it's a project that's kind of like centered around those quartets. Normally, the late Beethoven quartets would be the last thing you do in a program. They are considered kind of the top of the mountain for a string quartet. Our idea is to put them not on the top of the mountain, but kind of in the middle of the things, like a prism is. A prism is a device, like a glass kind of thing. You
Mhm.
put some light on, and then the beam of light is being split into a lot of different beams of light in
Right.
different colors. I think every school kid did this
Mhm.
experiment
Yeah.
in physics. So our idea is to put those late Beethoven quartets in the middle as a prism, and then we shine a beam of
Okay.
light from Bach onto them, and then this beam of light, a beam of music, is being split into lots of beams of music, contemporary composers that were inspired by Beethoven.
okay.
That is why it's called the Prism Project. Essentially, it's just a lot of music that is connected, inspired by each other, and it's a way to kind of recontextualize Beethoven.
Right. Okay. So you're going not linearly, not Mozart, Beethoven, Berg, right?
Well, we are going.
Oh yeah, that would because Beethoven's in the middle.
Beethoven's
Yeah.
in the middle. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Got it. And how long are you here? For as a residence?
A little more than a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How many concerts?
5 concerts
5,
here, and then
okay.
some outreach and stuff like
Right.
that.
And today's concert was which?
Number 2.
Number 2.
Yes.
Okay, so 3 more concerts.
Yeah.
Okay. And what are on those concerts? I don't know if you know off the top of your head what's on the concert, but what can we look for?
Well, as mentioned,
The late quartets.
the late quartets
Yeah.
of Beethoven. So there are 5 of them, and for each of the late quartets we have a Bach fugue. Every concert starts with a Bach fugue.
Okay.
That presumably these Beethoven quartets was also inspired
Sure.
by. And after each intermission, a work that is more contemporary. We have today we played Schnittke. We have some Bartok. We even have a Mendelssohn actually that is very connected to one of the
Mhm.
Beethoven quartets.
Okay.
Yeah, but like in the Prism, this after Beethoven it goes in so many different directions, and that is
Right.
what we're trying to show with these.
Yes, in that classical period, the Haydn, Mozart, Zasmeyer, whoever, the style was very narrow. Everyone was kind of in the same style. So before, right, the Baroque, all over the place.
You got it.
And then it narrows for that classical period, and then Beethoven, and then
Yeah.
it just goes
Yes.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's the prism.
Yeah.
You got it.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. And Beethoven knew Bach. I mean, he grew up having to play the well-tempered clavier, one of the few, really, in Europe to be who knew about it. He was kind of a cult following. So the Bach that's brilliant. That's wonderful to make that connection, because we always assume that Mendelssohn rediscovers Bach. Maybe he did for the general public, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think definitely it's very, very clear that Beethoven was like knew about it and was kind of obsessed about it, because if you look at the late quartets, there's some of the themes from the Walter piano that are just in every piece.
Right.
And we also know that when Beethoven was a young guy, he was a super pianist, and he was famous for being one of the few people who could actually play the well-tempered piano. He was making like in the nice salons, he was making shows where he could do things that no one thought was possible, playing those fugues way back.
Yeah.
So then he took that up late in his life. He was even in if you look at the sheet music, where he was writing the late quartets, sometimes you can see him like transcribing an entire fugue for string quartet, and then goes back to composing the fugue. So he was very immersed in the things that he liked when he was a young guy, which is.
And so one of the late quartets is the grosse fugue. Is that right?
Yeah.
And was that tonight or is that coming up?
That was tonight.
That was tonight. Okay. Missed it. I had to go to the voice lesson. And so you're here in San Diego for this week. What happens next for you? What is on the agenda? You back to?
Yeah, actually we go back to Denmark, because this is the end of a longer tour.
I see.
We have been to North America now for almost 3 weeks, and spend the rest of the tour down here, Southern California, which is pretty nice.
Sure. So what other parts of the country of the United States were you?
So we started in Minneapolis. Then we went to the West Coast and has just been traveling down south. It started in Vancouver, Canada, and then coming down from there. Okay.
And what do you see? I assume the audiences are different from Denmark, perhaps. What do you see how can you compliment American audiences?
I think it's also different where you go. I mean, North America is such a large continent, so I mean, it would be the same as comparing Denmark to Germany, or almost at least. So every place is different, and every audience is different, and every hall is different, and there are so many things that comes into account when you have to evaluate the full experience of a concert. So I mean, I think many American audiences are like in Denmark. I would say in many ways. We have a place in Denmark, in northern Jutland, where people tend to clap a little less than they do in the capital, for instance. But that's not because they don't like it. It's just because that's just a cultural, it's a local cultural thing. It's so
we like to clap here.
Yeah, you like to clap. That's nice.
We like people that like to clap.
Yeah, because that's the big. It's I think it came out of the Victorian era. This idea that you are between movements, you're silent and you're reverent, and you stay focused and you're improving yourself. But in other, like opera in Italy is like a contact sport. It's like they're yelling in the middle of the show.
That's true. That's true.
So
if they like a solo, they're just
So what's is Denmark? Do they do like the applause whenever they feel? Do they wait to the end? Is it?
I think most audience in Denmark would not clap in between movements, but if you go far enough out on the countryside, they probably will. I don't know but not in Copenhagen, I think.
But there's also the difference that in Denmark and most of Europe, and at the end of the show, the audience will kind of sync up.
Okay.
And that doesn't happen in America. It's still this, I don't know if you're more individualistic and we are more like brainwashed by society. But it's quite, I don't know why that is, if someone did a study or something, but it's quite clear. It doesn't line up in America. In Europe, it lines up. I think after the second time you go on stage, it's always lined up.
Interesting.
And I don't know why.
Huh. Yeah, I have no idea.
At least if it's really good.
If it's really good, you get.
It definitely lines up.
Okay.
If it's just a mediocre.
Sometimes
then it's
I'm
not.
trying to like not line up, and it feels very awkward because you like have to like consciously not
Right.
hit the same time. So
Right. Right. Yeah, and it's chamber music. Even when Beethoven's writing it, he's writing symphonies more public-facing, and chamber music more for the connoisseur. And it's still the same, I think. Here, the person who's going to come to a quartet concert is also going to go to the symphony, but not a lot of. I don't. It's a different. I think it's the most wonderful experience, chamber music, because there's the least friction between you and the composer.
That's true. Yeah.
There's only 4 of you in between us and the composer,
Right.
instead of 40 or, in
Right.
Mahler's case, 400.
Yeah. Yeah, like Beethoven, he used the chamber music and especially the quartets to experiment with things,
Right.
because it's also a more flexible size, and it's easier to correct if you didn't like something.
Right.
So what we're left with is are these quartets that are just they're actually quite experimental and quite advanced, and you can hear and feel that he's trying out things. He's testing the boundaries of what's possible. And with the symphonies, it's a little bit more. The framework is more straight in a way, so you kind of know what you're getting a little bit more.
Yeah.
And also, I think if you ask people that goes to concerts, they would know the 5th symphony, they would know the 9th, many would know the 7th, 3rd, and if you say Opus 127, no one can sing it. So you still have the element of surprise left in the quartet repertoire.
Right.
So that's nice too.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I didn't realize till I started reading biographies on Beethoven that the hearing started to go as soon as he got to Vienna. It was going as from a young age, and it colors his entire experience, his frustration, the Heiligenstadt testimony that he writes. You know, it's almost like almost a suicide. You know, kind of, I guess, suicide note we would call it now. And but now when he's experimenting, he cannot hear.
Right.
At all.
Right.
He's only relying maybe on, who's he relying on? To.
I think all composers, when they compose, they mainly rely on their inner ear, but then he just couldn't. I think he heard it in his head, but he couldn't really check if it worked or.
No, that's right. And then his idea of how something sounded could have been distorted over time too, right? So what he thought he heard or would be able to hear might sound different than what we hear.
Yeah. And is Beethoven kind of the central figure for most quartets? Is that where?
It definitely is during 2020 because
Sure,
Beethoven
yeah,
here.
50, yeah.
So everybody's like Beethoven.
Yeah.
So after 2020, Beethoven is not going to be the center point for us.
Okay. And so what should we be listening to for quartets? Maybe that's a little bit. I know the Dvorak, people only know the American quartet, but there's several phenomenal Dvorak quartets. The Bartok you mentioned, wonderful.
But,
like where should we explore beyond the prism? Right? You're giving us some. Where can we continue?
I think the cool thing about string quartets is that oh, this is gonna be profound.
Okay.
Huh. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Always like a sense.
Because a string quartet is it's difficult to write. It's the most difficult thing to write just with 4 parts.
Yeah.
So every composer wanted to show his chops by writing string quartets, especially after Haydn and Beethoven and Mozart. So everybody if you were a serious composer, you had to write string quartets. So everybody put everything in it just because it was like the cool thing to do.
Sure.
At the same time, it's quite easy to arrange a concert for a string quartet. So it has these 2 things going for it, and for this reason, there are just a lot of string quartets out there. Next to Beethoven, there are Schubert wrote amazing string quartet. There's Bartok, Shostakovich, a couple of French guys, Ravel, Debussy. Like those are like the stable war horses of our repertoire.
Right.
But I think there's so much repertoire to pick from a string quartet. It's almost difficult to to find out what direction you wanna go.
Mhm.
The interesting thing about a Beethoven cycle is that he wrote string quartets all his life.
Right.
So you can tell a quite intriguing story, life story,
Mhm.
and everything has to be storytelling these days, right?
Right.
So a Beethoven cycle is the best storytelling ever because he wrote all of his life. A Bartok cycle is close to that, but not
Okay.
quite the same, and the
Yeah.
level isn't so high all the way through.
Mhm.
Dare I say? Brahms didn't write string quartets all his life. Schubert,
Or he
Didn't-
did, he just burned them.
he burned them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Or
a
drowned
shitty
them, throw
cycle.
them in the river.
No,
It's one
and
concert cycle.
Schubert's first
Let's do
quartets were
that.
kind of weak. So I think that's why Beethoven is intriguing to
Right.
everybody, that because you have this great story and the best music
Right.
of all.
Yeah,
parts
we
of the
all
story.
we need a story. I'm not a fan of the story anymore.
No.
It helps to have some context of the composer, but my experience of the concert depends on, well, you, right? How you're feeling this day. Maybe you're feeling like exuberant, maybe you're feeling more contemplative. I don't know.
Right.
Myself, what did I have for dinner?
Yeah.
Who am I with at the concert?
Mm.
Right? I could be at the right concert with the wrong person,
Mm.
and or I'm alone maybe,
Yeah.
or I'm there with my soulmate.
Mm.
Right? All these things are so much more important than what Beethoven thought when he wrote it. I think for the audience to experience.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, but we have to have the story.
Yeah, but maybe it's a little bit. It's very much in vogue right now. Everything has to be
Yeah.
contextualized. I can't
Right.
even say the word.
Yeah.
And be a story thing. Maybe in 10 years, no one wants to tell stories anymore.
Maybe, yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
gonna be random things in concerts.
That could be. That could be. Sometimes it feels like that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to a few concerts. I was like, oh, okay. You're gonna make me listen to this, so I can listen to that.
Right, and then it feels like they're hiding something in the middle.
Right.
That you
Yeah.
can't-
Yeah. Yeah. And so
Right.
you are very much in charge of your own experience. No one's telling you what.
No, that's
Right.
totally just us,
Yeah.
which feels great.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a new era for recording, right? So we're recording.
Mm.
That before to get on the radio or the local news. Good luck, right?
Well, yeah, but we also went from a time where a CD or even before records were sold in huge numbers, even
Mhm.
classical
Yeah.
records, right?
Right.
And we don't do that any longer. But then it's easier to get on YouTube and
Yeah,
things. You can
right.
just
So you're
do it
more,
yourself.
but- yeah, because it was monolithic. It was Tokyo String Quartet with Deutsche Grammophon, and Cleveland with Telway,
Right.
and Guarneri with Phillips. Like there was
Mm.
not as much opportunity, I think, for you to go into the studio and put your prism out to the world. Maybe you have already,
Yeah.
put it on SoundCloud and
Right.
find your own audience. It's,
I watched a really nice video this other day. There's all these cooking things where people like real life hacks and stuff
Right,
like this,
yeah, yeah.
right? Where people do how to peel an avocado or whatever. I don't know. And so this guy says, I'm gonna make this amazing dinner, and then he brings out a pan and there's nothing in it, and he starts just going around with a spoon, and then he pours nothing in it from a glass, and then he says, "This is how I make a dinner from all my exposure." Right? So that's kind of the thing
Right,
we're
yeah.
working with these days. We don't sell any records,
Mhm.
but it's easier getting exposure. But
Right.
it's hard to cook dinner with exposure.
Yes, yeah, and there's a lot of, so the system is open for everyone,
Mm.
which means there's a lot of
Right.
garbage.
Yeah, and there's a lot of noise too. But
Yeah.
but it's also great. It means that competition is more fierce,
Mhm.
and you really have to have something to,
Right.
to
Oh yeah,
right.
because I have as much attention as I've ever had, right? But
Right.
the amount of things competing for my attention now,
Yeah, exactly.
since
That's-
2008,
yeah.
since the iPhone,
Mm.
is what, 1,000,000 times more maybe?
Yeah.
No joke. But
Yeah.
I only have what I have still.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so it's a challenge for the arts,
And
for
It's
the
a
performing
challenge.
arts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, because it means that to get the whole experience of a piece, then it's probably easier if you hear the whole thing. But most people are just gonna watch
Right.
15 seconds or something, and
Yeah.
then if it's not interesting, then
Yeah.
which is like that's just how it is. But
It is.
so it feels like it's changing how we feel or how we think about things and how we present things, and it's not all. It feels like it's not always the best if we need to be like dependent on the first 15 seconds to get something
Yeah.
across, right? Then the rest kind of
Yeah.
crumbles a little bit
Yeah.
sometimes.
Nothing profound happens in 15 seconds.
No,
Yeah.
I think
And where did you meet? Did you meet conservatory, or did it start with two of you and then how did that work out?
No, it started the three of us, Frederick, Asbjørn, and I. We played with a Danish cellist and met in Denmark at a little summer camp in
okay.
Denmark. And that's more than 20 years ago. So it's been a while now. I think I went to the summer camp the first time when I was 15. So that's 21 years ago. You were even there before me, I think. And then we started playing together a little bit more regularly. And Asbjørn, he would come into Copenhagen, where we were living at that time.
Ride in on your goat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Play your
Mush, mush.
So it goes way back. This has been your entire
Early
performance
Stone Age.
Yeah.
experience, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
Well, we started performing. I think our first concert was in 2002. And then it's been going just one direction ever since,
Yeah.
almost up to a point actually in 2007 where we decided to take a break just to figure out what we wanted with everything.
Right.
Because we were quite privileged at the time as young students, because we were playing a lot of concerts and
Yeah.
getting a lot of gigs, which were
Right.
great for the concert experience, and had a lot of fun with doing it. But at some time we just needed to pull a plug, and that's what we did in 2007, and then in 2008 Frederick he joined us.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And besides La Jolla, where is one place you would really like to go back to that you performed? You can each say. Or
It's just a very tricky question.
it is, because there's so many you probably don't even remember.
Well,
Dude.
we actually remember a ton of different places, but they're all different. So you get halls that are small, 150 seats,
Yep.
something, which is one experience, and you can have wonderful experiences there. But then you go to another place, at the Study Hall in New York City, 900 seats, which is, it's so hard to compare the two.
Right.
Because you get something there
Right.
you can't get in a smaller venue, and vice versa.
Is there a city that you particularly have a connection with, that personally maybe? Like I love New York City. I go whenever I can. Is there?
I feel like I like cities that remind me a little bit of Denmark and Copenhagen.
Okay.
So I like places that aren't so warm, and places where I can see the ocean everywhere.
Okay.
So that would be like Vancouver. It's
I
good.
see.
It's like feels like a Canadian Copenhagen.
Okay.
Cities like that.
Right.
I don't know. We tour so much, so it's
Mhm.
nice to be like in a place that feels like home. So
Right.
I feel more at home in
Dvorak would
Vancouver
agree.
than in Texas, for instance.
So
Right.
Seattle would be good too.
Yeah, I love Seattle. Yeah.
Okay.
I like Texas too, but it's more like then it's like exotic and wild, and and we're getting old and tired. We just want to be home now.
And then there's one, and you can maybe have a do-over. If there's one word that you can each share that currently best describes your personal relationship with music. And it can be like gratitude or love or frustration. like where are you in your musical, like one word or just where are you in your personal
With music in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a tough
not the
question.
way
It's a tough question.
not the way we make music together, but just
Like
with
you.
music.
Personally,
Yeah.
I'd like to say intense.
Intent.
Yeah,
Intense. Okay.
for good and bad.
Okay. But so energy though.
Well, so it feels like sometimes it comes out as great energy and something, and sometimes it kind of comes out as a struggle inside my head.
Okay.
With things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very good. Very honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
On the move. Oh, that's 3 words.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So motion, maybe.
Sorry.
Motion.
Yeah, motion.
Movement.
Yeah, I don't know. It's this is so hard because because it's since we've been playing music, you know, since we were kids. Basically, I've been playing since I was 6 years old. It's such you know, it's just a part of life. So, but yeah, like continuation or exploration maybe is exploration. I like that.
Okay. And life, it could be life, like you said, it could just be life. Music is
Or vacuum, nothingness,
as Kierkegaard.
darkness,
Money.
blackness, money.
Creativity.
Creativity.
Mm.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
I like money more.
Money.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I think that's
Okay,
Yeah.
good call.
All right.
Thank you.
that's great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. And this will be on Classical Rebellion.